Welcome to the Business Legends Podcast, where we interview business leaders and entrepreneurs so that you can learn from their successes, become inspired, and meet the people that make change happen. I'm the host of the show, Reese On, along with my empty chair. Should be my co-host, Christian Webb, but he's sick, so we're gonna give him a pass today. We have our new on-air light that Corey got us for Christmas. So this is the very first show that we have with our light. It's a very special show. So we got the light, but today we are joined by an amazing business legend, and I'm gonna have a hard time pronouncing everything, but I'm gonna try my hardest. So we have Emilio Antonio Guevara with ENYADA.
Yes.
First try. I did it. And we don't have our headphones today. It's just the two of us. But but I'm pretty locked in. I had my Bang energy drink, so I'm ready to rock and roll. So
let's do it.
Man, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Reese. I appreciate the invitation. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be able to sit here and have this conversation with you. And congratulations on all the success you've had.
Oh, thank you so much.
And the stories that you feature on the podcast are just amazing stories. So I'm just glad to to be amongst the group of people.
You are a business legend, my friend. Do not be humble about it. I'm so excited to have you on the show. So I told you, it's a little known fact, but I told you before the show that I go back and listen to all the shows to see like where I can improve and just listen to it and pull what I can out of it and try to learn, try to get better at things. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go back and listen to this show probably about 10 times because you have like the smoothest, most Barry White chocolatey voice of all time, dude. It's like listening to something awesome. So have you ever done anything in music or something? Because
no, I've been asked, but if you ask my
you got that perfect
if you ask my 11-year-old daughter, can I sing? She's gonna say absolutely not.
Okay. Well, take some singing lessons on behalf of everybody, man. You got this. You got the voice. You got it figured out.
Well,
so tell our listeners a bit about ENYADA, and I want to dig into it. So
yes,
yeah.
Well, ENYADA is a company that I created. For the purpose of really making an impact. I think that our mission is to expand the legacy of really successful business leaders, and at the same time, use their legacies to nurture younger entrepreneurs and business leaders. So that they're able to use their creative mind and also have a global vision for their goals and their dreams. And so it's basically using the legacy of these successful leaders to be able to make an impact on the younger generation, current entrepreneurs and business leaders, but also the younger generation, which is why we are really excited about these projects that we are working on and that we have set up for 2024 and beyond.
Man, that is an extraordinary thing, and you're making my blood burn and tingle a little bit here because I just love hearing when people want to get involved with community. Yes. I love to hear when people want to get involved with young entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. I think entrepreneurship was the only path that I had for my life.
Same here.
I'm unemployable. I'm loose cannon, and I can't be managed. Here. So yeah. But that's like our life stream as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you give an example of like what types of projects you work on? It's one thing to talk about things in an abstract format because you have the mission. The mission is extraordinary. What types of projects are you trying to pull together and types of stuff like that?
Well, let me give you a little, just to give you an overview of what that looks like when we talk about expanding the legacy of successful business leaders. And what we do is we put our clients through what we call 4 pillars, and one is we help them to craft and pen their autobiographies if they don't already have one. We're not a publishing company, but we do that specifically for our clients. Mm-hmm. We'll help them to pen their autobiography, and we help them publish it simply because that's the first step and a necessary step in order to be able to have your legacy put a stamp on it and make sure that people do get to know your story. Mm-hmm. Secondly, we then do a unique thing where we have what we call our Global Business Leaders Tours space, where we take this client now and we tour them across the country and across the world, right? So that they're able to share their stories. And why do we do that? Because most of the time when business leaders, and I'm an avid reader, I've read, hundreds of autobiographies. Mm-hmm. It's always been one of my favorites.
What was your favorite one? Oh, then you own that one account,
Yeah, I tell you, so many of them. It's really hard to say
Of
which
course.
is about
Anything that like jumps out at you?
Yeah, I tell you, one day most people probably wouldn't even think about would be it's the autobiography of Tandy, the gentleman who built Radio Shack, and then built
Wow.
a yes, he started out by building a leather company,
Okay.
and then went from
Leather,
that,
like leather, like
goods, and then transitioned to build Radio Shack, which of course is now defunct. The world changed, but he built it. His story was pretty incredible to me.
Yeah.
So that's one of them. But there's so many others. Uh, my mentor's mentor, his name was S.B. Fuller, who was the founded a company, in the middle of Jim Crow, and built this company out of nothing.
Wow.
And built a multi-million-dollar operation during that era. So these are men that and that just did some amazing things, and you learn a lot from these individuals, and so that's so we take the first step, which is we pen the autobiography. Then secondly, we tour them, and the reason is a lot of times, and the reason I say that I've read so many stories, that I've read a lot of autobiographies that once you've read them and they go through this space or period of time where they when they first are launched, then they may become a bestseller for a while, but then after that, that's pretty much it, right?
Sure.
The publishers go on to the next one, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is those stories get buried. Our mission is to make sure that these stories that we believe are important, that we continue to create that this platform is used to make sure that those stories are never buried, right? So we take the story and then we tour that leader. For example, one of our clients is a gentleman that was born in Ethiopia. His name is Kakadan Gashatena. He was born in Ethiopia, born in poverty, and then his mother raised him by himself because his father died during the war. Wow. As a child, and so she ended up getting him to the University of Berlin. He drove taxis all night long and then studied during the day. Had to wait 6 months before he could be accepted into the university in Berlin.
Wow.
And because he had to learn the language before they even accepted him. He did that, and long story short, he got his engineering degree.
Wow.
And then ended up working for some firms, engineering firms in Nuremberg, which is ground zero for the Nazis. Right here, you have a gentleman from Ethiopia, and now he's working in Nuremberg as an engineer. Yeah, becomes successful working for the firms, and then starts his own engineering firm called Covenant Engineering. Right, and now as we speak. Is now in the process of building a waste energy plant in his own country, in his home country of Ethiopia. Wow! After traveling all over the world on projects, doing different engineering projects, completing projects, and this now is something that he's doing as basically you could call a prodigal son going home now to make an impact in his own community with his skill set and his business, Yeah. And so now we are now getting ready to tour him. We help pen his autobiography called The Covenant. Please go to Amazon.
I was gonna say I can't wait to read that. It's incredible that he's like, well, you had the perfect metaphor, like the prodigal son returns. But before the show, we were talking a bit about purpose and why and things like that. And it's it sounds like he's done all these amazing things in life, but then he was driven back home where the heart is, So anyway, so that's incredible. I can't wait to read it.
And then from there, he then becomes part of our exclusive speakers bureau, where we're intentional about making sure that he's also able to share that story at other institutions. Aside from the fact that we tour him, so we're touring him across 16 cities in the U.S. and then we'll be doing some international cities as well. And then from there, then the last step of the 4-step process of the 4 pillars is that we now go through that last step of a autobiographical documentary.
Oh wow!
So we start by cementing the story on paper, and then we end it by cementing it on film. But in between, we take charge of the destiny of our client to make sure that the story is constantly told by having them in front of audiences through the tours that we curate ourselves.
Yeah.
And then
That's really cool.
And then we've gone a step further where we are doing it at all colleges and universities across the country because
Wow.
this helps us fulfill our mission.
Right.
Not only do we are able to invite entrepreneurs and business leaders to be a part of the events with these business leaders to learn from them and hear about their stories and how did they succeed in business and how they too can do the same thing, deal with challenges, but at the same time, we now also invite the business students from those universities to participate in those sessions so that they're able to have access and be able to learn from them about how do you do it the right way, right? And so that is what we're doing. And so right now we're currently touring. We're in the process of touring him. We're in the process of also touring this year. We'll be continuing on the tour that we started last year with Joe Foster, who is the founder of the multi-billion-dollar brand Reebok.
Wow.
Yeah, so he currently resides in Manchester, England, but we'll be bringing him here again this year to tour him across a number of cities here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And then we have another gentleman, Mr. Leighton Hole, out of Atlanta, who built his businesses in the franchising industry. Had a success there. Owning various McDonald's, owning various number of Denny's restaurants, owning the Bojangles, and so
that's
now,
interesting that he kind of crossed the the franchise barriers.
So he's become very successful in that space, and so we're now penning his autobiography and helping him to pen his autobiography, and then we'll be also touring him this year across a number of cities in this country. So if you go to ENYADA.com, you can pretty much see all
what
the different
types of
things
projects
that
you're
we're
with.
doing and why we're doing them.
Yeah. And so you started the company, correct?
Yes.
And then what year did you start it in?
I started ENYADA actually two years ago.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is that it was born out of the pandemic.
Interesting.
Yeah, because prior to that, we were doing
same type of work.
The same type of work, but not in the fashion in which we're doing it with an entirely new purpose.
Right.
We were doing it still to make sure that we used that we had these leaders that would speak to individuals, but it was pretty much what a lot of other people do, right? You curate events, for other business people to be a part of, to learn from your typical business seminars.
Sure.
So we were doing that already, right? When the pandemic hit, we were in the midst of doing some of those things, and basically everything shut down, And what happened was, I had to think about, and like all of us, we never expected it would last as long as it did, right?
14 days, right?
Right. But I had to think about what could we do not to do the same thing when the pandemic passed, but how can we be better?
Mm-hmm.
How can we build something that's even better than what we were on the trajectory to build before?
Sure.
And how can we make a difference? We conducted this event called the Global Founders Entrepreneurship Summit, where we had about 16 leaders, 18 leaders from around 16 different countries around the world, and we did this virtual event.
Mm-hmm.
So we got into the virtual space, of course, with everything that was going on.
Of course.
And in that process is when the idea came to me that we could do something that could be a lot more impactful to make a difference, and that's where the whole concept came from, as to let's make sure that these stories are shared where we can make a difference for both current entrepreneurs and leaders, but let's make sure that we participate and we make an impact in the lives of the younger generation that's coming up.
Yeah. I presume you guys still do quite a bit in the virtual space as well?
We've done some. We're doing more this year. But there's something about sitting here across from you.
I agree with you
And there's something about
$1,000,000%.
shaking somebody's hand.
Yep, bumping elbows is what we say.
You know what I mean?
South,
Right,
you know?
bumping elbows, right?
Yep.
You know, there's something about that.
It is.
And yes, this newer generation, you know, as you and I were just talking a few minutes ago, there's a certain disconnection, you know,
For sure.
and but you can't ever substitute the power of human beings connecting.
I agree.
You know, and so we're more
interested
in making sure that you meet these gentlemen, that you shake Kakadon's hand, you know, and let him just share a word with you. You know, we're more interested that you meet Joe Foster and people like that, and Mr. Hole and others that we're working with. You know, and last year we had Joe Foster here, and we had 3 other individuals in the community, which is what we do on the tours. It's not just the person that we're touring. There are 3 other individuals or 4 individuals that we put on stage with them that are pretty influential and successful in the community. And what we call our tours, what we say is they're national and international tours, but with local impact.
Yeah. That's perfect. That's perfect.
And so we had Gary Fry that was one of our
awesome.
who's been on your program.
Yeah, it was a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, we had Manny Onome, the founder of Samaritan's Feet International, and we also had a young lady named Griselda Bailey, who is the CEO of the Latin American Chamber of Commerce, and
wow.
They were all part of that event, you know, and we had the opportunity, to be able to have the audience to hear from them as well as to, you know, what does it really take to be successful. And so this is what we do, you know, when we do these tours. They're not just the individual, but we actually are including. So if you do a 16-city tour, you know, you're talking about another 48 actual individuals that are on that tour along with that leader. So it's rich in content to make an impact in the lives of not only entrepreneurs and business leaders, but these younger business students that are coming up in these universities.
Yeah, you know, we were talking about doing things in person, and long time ago, 2018, when Christian and I sat down and we started talking about doing a podcast type of thing, and you know, the podcast has gone through ups and downs, trials, and everything,
right.
And our production value is so much better than it used to be in every way, but. You know, one of the things that him and I firmly agreed on, and by the way, I know you didn't get the opportunity to meet Christian today, but him and I very rarely firmly agree on anything, okay? So just know that ahead of time. But one of the things we firmly agreed on was that we are always going to do this podcast in person. We will never do it virtually. We made that choice. And that's not to say it couldn't have been successful doing it virtually or anything like that, but I completely and totally agree with what you said.
Yeah.
There's something about being able to connect with people, having a reason to connect with people, being able to bump elbows with people, I love a lot of the virtual convenience that our lives offer, right? I'm on Zoom every single day. I do Zoom calls and meetings and stuff like that. And it's great because, you know, we have clients nationally and internationally, you know, but just having the ability to you know, meet people in person and see their body language and see how they're behaving and whatever else. And you know, it's just a way that we've grown as people.
It just makes a big difference. I feel that, you know, you allow people the opportunity to to connect in the way that's just not the same as it is, you know, virtual. There's a place, as you just said, for virtual.
Of course.
I mean, you know, I do a lot of Zooms, and we're able to save a lot of time.
Oh yeah,
you know, and money in that way. But when it comes to the impact that I feel that we want to make, I think that you can't beat that. That aspect of it.
For sure. You know, I've spent quite a good deal of time thinking about this in the last, I don't know, year or so, because we were just talking about technology before the show, but. Have you seen this is kind of a deep reference, but have you seen Apple? They just come up with this Vision Pro. It's this $3,500 virtual reality thing that you can whatever. And so, you know, as technology continues to improve, you almost wonder if people will continue to get more and more and more and more and more, segmented and cornered into their behaviors and things like that. But I just can't resist this belief that people are still going to want to do things with each other, like in person, right?
Well,
like
when you think about, when we were going through the midst of, when we were in the midst of the pandemic, one of the reasons it probably, came to a halt was because people were starting to become resistant to staying in.
Yeah.
They were getting to the point where they just
going
did
crazy.
not. They were right. They wanted to be, we're communal by
Right.
nature, and so clearly that was an example for us to see that people like being with other people. They don't really want to be, separated. I think that they want to be with other people, and I don't think that we'll able lose that part of it, because I think it's just in our nature.
It is
to want to do that.
For sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's how relationships are struck. I mean, not even just business and personal, but I mean, romantic relationships. And I mean,
right.
we're pack animals by nature. It's who we are.
Yeah.
The thing that I think's interesting about all this is, you read a bunch of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I read an article towards the end of the pandemic, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I believed it to be true because it's believable, right? And so I'm a millennial, and I put on a little bit of weight through the pandemic, not too serious, 5-10 pounds maybe, something like that. But I read that the average millennial through the 2 years of the pandemic gained something like 32 pounds or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true or not, but I believe that, And you just think about all the long-term health effects of just all of that, gaining weight and not having a community and all of the above, not being able to exercise, gyms or not, And it's just really a shame. So I'm inclined to think that at least for the foreseeable future, people are going to remember that experience.
I agree.
There would have to be some kind of if you walk outside, you die type of flu to keep me indoors at this point. I'm just saying,
it was a challenge to say the least.
I bet.
It was a challenge to say the least.
Yeah. So have you, you've worked with all these different folks and doing these tours with them and autobiographies and things like that. Who have you found to be particularly inspiring that you've worked with?
Well, I've worked with many individuals, throughout my career with business leaders, in this format, yes, it's we as we talked a little bit about purpose, it came from that, right?
Sure.
From having the purpose. But I've worked with many individuals that were very inspiring, to me. But I think that these individuals that we're working with now, what I love about what we're doing, and let's go back to purpose, is that collectively, they've all agreed in our mission. So our mission is not just per se the company's mission, but it's everybody that works with us, any subcontractors, any of the leaders that work with us. Everybody's bought into that, that we definitely
That's a very powerful thing, man. That is a very powerful thing.
That we have to. Let me share something with you. And we were talking about, when I think earlier when we were just having a conversation, we talked about what's happening with our younger generation, in terms of purpose. Kids these days can go on YouTube and do one specific video and he goes viral, and now he's on this journey, wants to create more of the same thing to get that same high from the same people that are following them. They make money from YouTube. They some kids have, and some people have gotten what you would call, quote unquote, financially successful from these platforms, and they end up having a certain amount of monetary gain from it.
Sure.
But on the flip side, what is not talked a lot about is what has happened to some of these people, which is almost some of the same thing that's happened to people that win the lottery, right? Those symptoms end up being kind of the same to some of these individuals, where they end up with a sense of emptiness, a feeling of emptiness, you know. And it's just not just them. There are successful executives that's happened to, you know, where, you know, you gain what you thought was a success, which you've tied it to monetary gain, and then you end up finding out that when you get the monetary gain, when you acquire it, you realize that you go through these, you go through this feeling of, you know, something's missing, you know, and many and some have gotten to the point of harming themselves, you know, because of not understanding how to cope with with those situations, you know. And I know mental health is a big conversation that's being had this day, and rightfully so. The reason why I share with you that part of our purpose was to make sure that we share these stories with the younger generation, is because there is a lack of purpose, and it's not a conversation that's being had with the younger generation about the importance of purpose, right? Because when you're grounded in purpose, you know, you have something to get up for every day that's more valuable than currency.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's missing, you know.
I agree with you 100%.
That's missing. And, you know, and so I think that it doesn't matter what profession you're in, I think we all have to know that we still are connected with each other, and we all have to play a role in making a difference, you know, in society, and making a difference with our younger generation, you know. And so as business leaders, and I'll speak for myself in this case, as a business leader, I had to think about, how can I make a difference in that, you know? Let me share something with you that hit close to home, you know. Just the day before yesterday, at 8 p.m., I get a text from my godmother, and she shares with me that her 24-year-old nephew committed suicide. He took his own life.
Jeez.
Okay.
And did you know the nephew?
I didn't know him in that way, but there was closeness there in the sense that
2 points separation. Yeah, sure.
You see, 24 years old. You know,
he had the rest of his life ahead of him.
Had the rest of his life ahead of him. And there's many stories that we can talk about like that, right? Too many to count, right? And the thing is, the purpose and the mission for what we're doing is really to serve as some support by having these individual leaders that have succeeded and gone through many challenges. You know, and
like
as you know,
too,
as entrepreneurs, we experience a tremendous amount of challenge and a lot of things that we have to deal with mentally in order to even get through point A to point Z in any goals that we have in business.
Sure.
And so I feel that we have a place to be able to share with these young people about purpose. In the arena, in the space in which we're in, right? You know, we can help to make a difference in that way, which is why we're doing what we're doing. Because, you know, I think you shared with me that you're 34.
34, yep.
You know, I mean, what greater thing than for you at 34, or when you become 44 or 54, to go back and talk to an 18 or 18-year-old at a high school or university and say, hey, listen, there's going to be some tough times. Let me share with you what I had to deal with mentally in order to get through some of that. You know, and let's talk about what, you know, your purpose. What is it that you feel as though would be your purpose? But these conversations are not being had enough.
I agree.
And so. But just think about that. This gentleman was 24 years old, and I'm still dealing with that, you know, because I'm close to her. You know what I mean? And so we we as business leaders can play a role, I think. And so for us as a mission is to, to really be able to use the legacies of these individuals, and they've agreed that they want to share their stories. They don't need the money.
No.
They don't need the fame. They're not looking for that. They feel they've been blessed, and they are interested in being able to now use their stories and their legacies to make a difference in the world.
Yeah. Gosh, you made me think about so many things, and I'm so sorry about your godmother's nephew. It's a horrible thing to go through. Something that's near and dear to my generation, unfortunately. So, little known fact, I will share with you something as well. But between Christian and I, we're in the teens now of number of people that we've known and friends of ours and funerals we've had to attend from people overdosing. Wow. So we're up to, between the two of us, and we have basically the same friends because we've known each other for ever or whatever, same acquaintances, but 13, 14 people, 14 funerals we've had to attend. Wow. And that's over 14 years. But I hate that so much. I hate when people turn to that, and most of the time it's not intentional, but even still, there's something that's tugging at them that I think that's taking away from their purpose. And I don't want to bite the hand that feeds in social media and things like that. But what I will say is that you turn on the news or you look at the latest and greatest celebrity or whomever, and a lot of the things that you see them chase are financial, right? Like, I want to have a new Lamborghini, or have a bigger and bigger box, bigger house in a better place, and whatever else type of thing. And I think that's why people have turned away from talking about purpose. I told you before the show, I think I'm the luckiest guy on earth. I work every single day with my best friend. We talk mad crap to each other every single day. There's probably a text in there talking about something stupid, and it gives me a great deal of fulfillment, And I think that when people talk about purpose, I think they confuse that with their line of work, because I own a marketing company. Marketing is not my purpose. The things that I'm enabled to do based on my career are my purpose.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? Like something that's so different than it's like I get to do all these amazing things, work with these amazing people, and do marketing and stuff like that. That's great. Don't get me wrong. But it's the way I'm able to connect with people and the doors that it opens and the stuff that I'm able to do.
No, I mean, I agree with you because again, ENYADA was born out of the idea that yes, we've always done seminars. We've always curated events, right? And
sure.
But now the mission is much bigger. There's more depth to it, right? Because yes, you can do that, and we're still doing that, but now there's a reason for and those that we have doing it, there's a reason for them doing it as well. So we all have a purpose as to why we're doing this. It's not just to talk about dollars and cents, and not to equate success to just dollars and cents, but understand that success is in a holistic approach. You still should love your family. You should
make
still
time for
make
your
sure
family,
that you make time for family,
Yep.
right? You should still make time for the people that you love in your life, and you can still be successful. The notion that you can't do that, I think, is a misnomer. And so these individuals prove that you can. Yes, we all know as entrepreneurs there are seasons, but that you go through from beginning, to the point where you want to be. But if you keep the purpose in front of you, I think that then begins to help you to carve out your goals in a different way.
I agree wholeheartedly.
As opposed to just focus on that one thing, right? You know what I mean? And so I think, and so I see exactly what you're saying. We're basically, can see where we are with that. That's where I think we really need to be.
So we've had a lot of business legends that are involved with Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, and met some incredible folks. And one of the tenets or learnings or whatever you want to say, and it's a very common thing amongst all entrepreneurs. I just mentioned EO because they believe in this, but from an organizational standpoint, they get together and they plan out for their businesses. They plan out, what's your 1-year goal, what's your 3-year goal, what's your 5-year goal. It's very common business practice. But their approach to their goals is similar to, say, like our approach for marketing, which is the sense of start at the goal. What do you have to do to get there, type of thing, And I think that's a core value, a core thing that's missing. Not just the planning feature of it, but if I point my finger at that's what I want, how do I get there? And as people are doing that in business, I believe, I think that they're making a lot of business choices to get there. I got to hire this amount of people. I got to pull this amount of revenue, this amount of sales, whatever, And I think the feature that's missing amongst a lot of businesses is how can I use my purpose, my mission, my belief, my values, what grounds me? How can I use those things? Because that's what makes you who you are. You know, how can I use those things? Money will come. Success will come. Like, we can focus on that. We can focus on how we got to do those things. But like, how do I apply this great spirit of who I am and what keeps me up at night and what makes me look forward to waking up in the morning? You know. And it's not chasing a Lambo. Lambos are awesome, but it's something different.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think I believe in capitalism, but I also feel as though that you are who you are, and you take yourself wherever you are and wherever you go. Right. You know what I mean? So, if you're a person, that doesn't care about other people, and you just happen to be fortunate enough to know how to achieve goals and you know how to gain money, well, you're just a person with money that still doesn't care about people. Right. You know what I mean? Because those are your values. The two don't have anything to do with each other. Right. But
it doesn't sound like a very good life, by the way.
It doesn't sound like a good life, right? But if you're a person who who does care about others and cares about your fellow man and cares about society, then you're going to take that as part of your value system. So whatever you do in life, in whatever area that is, and if it's in business, then you take that, with you into your business career as well, and you're able to do good, right? Because that's who you are. That's what your value. That's what your value system is. Yeah. And so I think that makes a difference.
For sure. I know you know Gary Fry quite well. And Gary Fry was a couple episodes ago on Business Legends. And have you read his book by chance? I know it's kind of a deep cut.
Imposter Syndrome.
Imposter Syndrome. That's exactly what I was going to mention. So Gary and I on show we talked quite a good deal about imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is effectively, now he's involved with a group called F3 where it's basically I'm going to mess up the acronym, but it's Fitness, Faith, and Fellowship. I think that's right. Fitness, Faith, Fellowship. But anyway, it's a group of guys that get together and they support one another and things like that. It's an amazing organization. But they have. I also had David Redding Dredd on the show very recently, and we were talking about this. And they have all these like, I can only describe them as like F3 like acronyms, right? And so like one of their acronyms is FNG. So like if you come work out with them, right? And they don't know who you are, it's like, oh, Emilio's an FNG, right? And you might be like, I don't think I want to be that, But FNG stands for friendly new guy. Like it's just because you're a friendly new guy, right? And then another one they have, which is on the lines of imposter syndrome, is they'll call a guy a sad clown, and so they think about somebody that's sad and has depth on the inside, but they behave very happy, right? And I've been spending my time probably ever since the podcast I thought about it. So I know a lot of sad clowns, I know a lot of guys that on the outside they look real happy, but on the inside they're burning up, and I spend my time thinking about, I think I can make a big difference interpersonally, like amongst my friends when they're going through something, like I can help them, like I can be there. But it's like, how do you affect that on a global scale? Like how do you affect that on a more magnanimous scale type of a thing? Like how do you, and maybe you can't, maybe people's ability to reach is limited because you have to have a strong connection with somebody in order to make an impact or make a difference on that. But I've been thinking about that a lot. Maybe I'll figure it out in a couple of years and give you a call. But no, but
You know,
it's a big problem.
My mentor,
you know,
my mentor used to always say, that that it always, we have to think in terms of, he used to always tell us that, it just takes one.
Mm-hmm.
That was always his premise.
Yep.
He said it just takes one. If there's always, it takes one to make a difference.
Yep. That's it.
So if that's your purpose, if you see it as something that you can affect, I think that's it just takes one to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to always tell us, a stove doesn't ask anyone to get hot.
Yeah.
If you're around the stove, you're gonna get hot.
Right.
So,
that's true. That's
true.
true.
If if it just takes that one person to have that vision and to have that desire to make an impact, next thing you know, you're infecting other people with the same thing, and I think that's how we make a difference. And that's all we can do.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. It's just to take that kind of approach to it.
I think about that a lot. I don't know if you've ever read Nelson Mandela's speech, but he's one of the quotes. I'm gonna. Oh God, I should not bastardize Nelson Mandela, but I'm gonna paraphrase as best as I possibly can.
Right.
But he says, as we shine light, we subconsciously give the permission to shine light on others.
Right.
And God, I hope I got that right. But anyway, I'm pretty close. I think about that a lot. I think about, it's not always about being a positive person. Like, oh yeah, he's so happy or anything. It's about like, talk about some real stuff. Like if you're going through something, let's get through it. Like, because the only way you can get through something's together. But it's like, as you lift other people up, then they can start pulling people up too.
Yeah.
And I find myself thinking about that a lot. How lucky are we, man?
Yeah, I know. And you were talking about Gary Fry in his book, The Imposter Syndrome. I mean, I would encourage anybody who's listening. That is a fantastic book.
Yeah.
And he lives that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
he does.
He is one of the most transparent people that I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, he is, and one of the most giving people.
Mm-hmm.
Making a difference, making a tremendous difference in his community and in the lives of others. He's that is another great book. And
it absolutely is.
That's a fantastic. So anybody that's listening to this podcast, I think they should pick up that book and read it.
Yeah.
Because it will make a difference in your life. I mean, it's made a difference in mine. I mean, just reading it. So and that's what it takes, as you said. And that's the kind of education that we need to continue to.
It is.
It's just learning from others and developing ourselves in that way.
Yeah. I got to tell you something amazing about Gary. So he invited me to be on his show that you were also on. Anything but typical podcast with him and Ben.
Yeah.
By the way, Ben will be on this show in like a month. But
okay, great.
I can't wait for that because he's I started talking to him after the fact because he was very when we were on the show. I don't want to say he was stiff, but he was professional on the show, right? Because like we were working and we were doing the show, And then after the fact, we start like cutting up and like I'm making fun of Christian without Christian, and I'm really looking forward to that show. Anyways, but I gotta tell you something amazing about Gary, because as we began our relationship with other folks, like we don't know how they're representing themselves. We could easily be like I could make you believe that I'm the most awesome person ever, and then behind the closed doors, I'm type of thing. Right. But I'll tell you, you were talking about Gary being transparent. I got a quick story about him. So their accounting firm is BGW Associates, I think, is the acronym. I'll put it in the link if I mess that up, but I think it's BGW. It's B something anyway.
No, it is.
It's okay. Good. Man, I'm like my brain's not working. But he showed me around his office and stuff like that. For the most part, most companies you visit, right? The boss comes around the corner or whatever, and then people kind of straighten up and they start to act like they're working or whatever. And then Gary's like, "Yeah, I'll show you around the office." And so we open a door and go in where there's a couple cubicles, a couple CPAs working or whatever. And he's like, "What's up, dude?" And then the CPA like stands up. He's like, "Gary, I haven't seen you all week. Where you been?" And but how cool is that?
Right.
Because that wasn't fake.
Right.
How cool is it to be like the type of person that like you're their boss or their superior or whatever, and they stand up happy to see you. Like that's cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's that it all starts at the top, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it all starts there, and they, he's that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's that guy. So I mean, he's an amazing person, and I always tell him that I'm so grateful that we became friends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And being able to do some things. He's going to be on some of our platforms.
Oh,
on
I
some of
bet.
our stages, because
Yeah.
we're looking to do some things with him as well.
Yeah.
So he's
He's a great guy to do it with too,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
When I first met him, I was like, dang man, save something, because he's a big
Yeah.
fitness guy. But I was like, save some for the rest of us, man. Dang. But
No,
anyway.
I told him, I said, Gary, every time I see you, I mean, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You're making us all look bad.
Right? Yeah. Like what? How are you doing that,
yeah,
man?
yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
Mr. Emilio, it has been a spectacular show, man.
Thank
We're
you.
quickly running out of time here. But I always like to sign off with like a fun question or funny question or something like that. And this is where I stall to come up with stuff. Usually I look over at Christian, I'm like, help, you know.
Yeah.
But here's maybe a critical thought type of a question. So, you know, we've talked a good deal about people not having purpose and having the imposter syndrome and sad clowns and things like that. You know, how do we fix it? Like how can we prevent bad things from happening to good folks and things like that? Like what do you think that we as business leaders and executives, like how can we do better from your perspective?
I think, there's this quote by Burke that says that evil cannot triumph unless good sits down.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the internet and social media,
Yeah.
which we use, right?
Yeah. But there's a lot of evil there.
Right? But I'll tell you what my perspective is and what I look, what I can tell you, what I feel as though we can do, and what we're looking forward to doing is, if we can tell the stories. For me, that's what my gift and what I feel as though I'm here for,
Mm-hmm.
is to shine the light on those that the light is not being shined upon,
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to use that, gift and that skill set to be able to do that. Because if we can think about it, one day we have 1,000 clients and stuff, and their stories are on social media, and we've pushed it on social media in that
Sure.
way. Well, then we can begin to have an impact in helping to change the narrative in some of these in some situations,
Yeah.
right? The more good we put out there, the more we help to balance things out.
Yeah.
And I think that all of us as leaders have to find what's our, what can I do with what I know how to do well, or what can I do with my the opportunity I have,
Yeah. Skill set,
with
or
my
yeah.
skill set that I've been blessed with,
Mm-hmm.
and use that, to do good, to make an impact in other people's lives. I think we all have that opportunity.
Yeah. I think so too.
I think we have to be intentional
Of course.
about,
Yeah.
about how do we do that and give that time, to that effort and be conscious about it, So I think that every one of us that's a business leader can do that.
Sure.
We just have to be intentional about looking for that space and being able to help fill it,
Yeah.
We can make that difference, that's all it takes is for each one of us to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Just takes one, right?
Just takes one.
Oh man, what a great note to sign off on, man. Well, Emilio, thank you so much. It's been a spectacular show. I look forward to all the things that we will inevitably continue to do together after today. And man, thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you,
Yep.
and grateful to have been a part.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you.